6:30 p.m. Could I have a roll call? I've called this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. Could we have a roll call vote, please, Mr.
Weber? Here. Nystrom?
Here.
Teven?
Here.
Richard?
Here.
Melhouse?
Here. Okay. Thanks for everyone signing in tonight for this meeting. Hopefully this will be a quick meeting. First thing on the agenda is the fiscal year 21 insurance renewals. And I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Menard. Mr. Boehm, I see you're on the phone, on the computer as well. And Mr. Lewis, if you can fill us all in.
All right. Well, we've been working with our agent, Hans, to give us our renewal. As the board knows, we had to find a new agent for work comp. EMC is still going to hold our other building and liability insurance. Hans, do you have some information on that?
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to thank the board for having this special meeting because I know you're all busy and you have a lot of things to work on. A little bit to some of the people that may not know me, because there's a few faces that don't know me, and some of you I know real well. I'm Hans Boehm. I own Boehm Insurance, downtown Boone. I've been down here for about 36 years. Our agency's been in Boone County since 1917, and we've worked on the school insurance since 2007. And we have 8 employees in our office, and we have 2 locations. So what I've done with the information that you've all received, I've tried to do kind of a Cliff Notes, because if I would have given you everything we had, it was the property and casualty proposal alone was over 60 pages. And then the work comp was probably 30 or 40. So I tried to condense this down to about 12 pages because I know insurance is probably not your most favorite topic to read and study on. So what I want to do for everybody's benefit, I put together this kind of an outline sheet that should have come out as the first grouping of attachments on your email. And on that, for the newer board members, I just wanted to give a little overview of where we have our insurance now. Our property and casualty insurance is with Employers Mutual Insurance Company, which is located downtown Des Moines. It's an A-rated company, and Employers Mutual has put together a school safety group, which insures most schools in the state of Iowa. There's only a handful that are not insured through EMC. The safety group does various things, and you can see in the outline, they have competitive pricing on the package. They have broad coverages, which we couldn't get elsewhere, and we need them to operate effectively. We're eligible for a dividend every year if we have low losses, if the group has low losses. We've gotten many dividends in the past. This last year or so has not been quite as fruitful for us. We get safety services provided to the school at no cost. And the annual review and expansion of policy coverages, it's forever expanding. We're always increasing coverages, and we review them each and every year. And this program has gotten broader and broader, which is to the benefit of every district that's in it. So the 2019-2020 school year, which we're still in, it's brought about so many issues. We all know that with the COVID issues and everything, EMC is doing the very best to try and work through this. And all our coverages, we've got a whole broad range of coverages. And I know that those of you that aren't interested in in studying insurance, I can understand why it's kind of a boring topic, but there's a lot of coverage issues that we provide for the school. So what I want to do in this is I want to review the package, which is the first part of your first and second email, and then review the work comp coverages that were offered to us from the two different carriers. One is SFM and one is West Bend Mutual. So I included them both. West Bend Mutual happens to be $25,000 higher than SFM. And I'm going to present both of them, but we'll probably spend most of our time looking at the proposal with SFM. So if you would, has everybody had a chance to review the email? Because there's just a lot in it. The proposals I gave to Mitch and Brad, they're, I don't know how many pages, they're 15 or 20 pages. It gives all the various coverages. And I think what I'll do is I'm just for a kind of a quick run through, I'm going to go through each one of the coverages and just kind of tell you a little bit about it. Do you guys have access to the proposal on your computer on a second screen? Does everybody have that by chance? You do? Okay. So if you go to the page where it says commercial property at the top, and it shows our coverage limit of 84,373,490. That is all the school's property insurance under one blanket, including our contents of our buildings. So that's all the property we have. We have $1,000 deductible for all our property. This would include all our small buildings, large buildings, temporary buildings, any property that we have that's included in the school. Also includes blanket business income and extra expense. Everything is on a replacement cost basis, and we review this annually. The next item should say inland marine. Those are just some items that we have, or Bobcat or ATV. We've always had that, so we can cover it on and off premises. Now, if you go down to the next page, it would say commercial liability at the top. We have a 2 million per occurrence liability limit. We have a 4 million aggregate. Under that liability limit, we have corporal punishment, employee benefits liability, abuse, and molestation. All our clubs, PTO, all of those are under our general liability. So when people ask, you know, is my club covered? Is my club covered? Yes, they are. So they're covered under the school insurance. And one of the other things I guess I didn't put on here is employees are included as additional insurance. So if an employee gets into a liability issue, they're going to be covered individually as well as the school district. I think that's an important aspect because people worry about stuff like that. They could come under false charges or come under all sorts of different issues. So moving on down, we have crime coverage. We have the employee theft up to $300,000. You can see the other coverages we have there. That also includes the booster club and the PTO for the monies that they have. So when they collect money at games and the football field for concession stands and different things, if somebody would get robbed taking it to the bank, we're going to cover that. Okay, if you go to the next section, which should say pollution coverage at the top, that's 500,000 per incident, $1 million aggregate. Why might we need pollution? In the event that we would spill any sort of chemicals or fuel in an accident, and we would be held responsible for that. This is where coverage would come from. The next coverage is our cyber liability, which everybody is always concerned about. We have 250,000 in limits on that. And we have the broad form that EMC provides. So we have checked into that. Brad and I checked into that, what, 2 years ago, Brad? We looked at this at $1 million. We priced that out and we decided to stay at the 250,000 level for the time being. That was, I looked that up, Brad, by the way, and that was, I think it was $6,500 is what $1 million was 2 years ago. So we decided to stay at the 250. So,
Yep.
And I think that was a good
Hans,
decision.
does this,
So, yes,
Hans, what other,
we see sometimes hospitals or cities get attacked and people hold their data hostage for an amount of money. Is that covered here?
yes, yes, it is. As this gets to be more extensive, Brad, I think that it would be worth the school's time that we should consider increasing this limit to either 500,000 or $1 million because of the data that we have on everyone and the fact that we can't stop the school district over someone holding us hostage. Most of your, the hostage demands are almost always $50,000 or $55,000. And that's been true because most places will pony up that much money. And there's been schools and hospitals and small cities, and there's been people all over ask for that amount. And so they have paid it and then they move on and then try and put in the barriers and the stops, you know, to avoid that. But I think probably BOG has probably done an awful lot of that stuff already. So hopefully we can avoid all those. But there's still policies and issues that you should be aware of and you should always continue to investigate because it's always better to stop it at our end rather than at the other end from insurance, because we'd rather avoid that. So. Okay, anything else on that? All right,
Hans, what are
the
the other
next
school
page should say
districts typically
commercial
doing?
auto on the top.
Yeah, Hans, what are other school districts doing on that?
You know something, that's a good question, Brian. And I've checked on that with other agents. It's kind of all over. There's some that are 500,000. There's some that are at $1 million. I've got accounts that are $1 million. I personally have 500,000 myself for my own business. Because no, I don't. I had 500,000. I just changed it to $1 million this last renewal myself because I have so much information on people. So $1 million would not be too much. But I will say, when Brad and I checked on it 2 years ago, it was pretty expensive. I think that price has come down now. You remember that, Brad, when we worked on that?
Yeah, we looked at that cost and thought that the difference was maybe not worth it, but especially when
Yeah,
most of the things that we're running into were in the $50,000 range. But
yes.
yeah, I don't know what the cost would be now, so it might be something worth looking at.
BOG just said that we store most of our data on third parties, so we really don't have too much information on school premises, so.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Hans, go
Okay.
ahead.
Then if you move on to the next section, it should say commercial auto at the top. Under the commercial auto, we have a $2 million combined single limit, the same as our general liability was 2 million. We have our med pay, our uninsured, underinsured motorists, comp and collision. We've got all our school buses, vans, vehicles of all kinds. We can provide replacement cost on buses up to 15 years, and any buses that we have added on to the policy, we have on a replacement cost basis the last 10 years. So you might not think that's a big deal until you have a whole bus barn burn up like it happened in Western Iowa. They had all their, I can't think of the school district, but they had all their buses burn up in one event. And then they had to buy all new buses in the same year, and they did not have this. Well, they almost had to take out a bond to get the buses replaced, because you guys all know buses are very expensive. And if you had to buy them all in one shot, it would be very, very difficult. So this would help alleviate part of our troubles. So most of ours right now are covered on a replacement cost basis. We'll buy new for old. Okay. If you go on to the next section, it should say linebacker at the top. That's a $2 million. It said public officials liability. That is coverage for you, the board, for any improper decisions you might make that would create liability. It's not a bodily and injury coverage. It's for financial decisions, okay? We also have employment practices. We call it EPLI. Employment practices liability insurance is for the issues shown below there: wrongful termination of an employee, discrimination, harassment, failure to promote. Also includes the clubs and PTO for anything they might say or do. It's very difficult, the purposes of those, it's difficult to determine what employees may do to other employees or other people. So then below that should say commercial umbrella. Our commercial umbrella is 4 million. That commercial umbrella goes over the top of the linebacker 2 million, the general liability 2 million, the business auto 2 million. So that's an extension of coverage. So we have 6 million total. Then if you go to the next section, it should say group excess liability at the top. We have a $15 million all schools group limit. So we can extend our limit from 6 million to 21 million. So if we would get into a multiple injury bus accident and we'd have lots of problems, it's potentially liable, but we're potentially liable to get into this limit. So we've had it for quite some time since they first came out with it. I believe it was 2011, I think, was the first year for this. So, and we've always had this, and I think a district of our size should have it. So, okay, now if you go to the section below this, it should say SFM mutual insurance. I just noticed I put those in the wrong order. It's SFM's state Minnesota fund. Anyway, I'm probably backward on that a little bit. Here's what I wanted to tell you before I got to the work comp. I wanted to tell you the companies that we marketed the school work comp to. We went to, of course, EMC, and they denied us. We went to Markel Insurance, Nationwide, Safeco, Cincinnati Insurance Company, Encova, Selective, Auto Owners, Heartland Insurance, and Liberty Mutual. So we went to all those companies and they all turned us down. The two companies that gave us quotes was the SFM and SFM Mutual Insurance Company and West Bend Mutual Insurance Company. SFM is out of Minnesota. West Bend is out of Wisconsin. Some of the things that I did want to point out, both of them write a lot of schools. SFM, they're the biggest writer in the state of Minnesota. They also write several schools in Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota. West Bend writes a lot of them in Wisconsin. So that's why we chose those two. And they both gave us quotes right away. They did school inspections, and so they know what we're looking at. So the other thing I wanted to point out to the school board, and it's on my notes there was 23 other Iowa school districts that were canceled from EMC. So we were not alone in this. And I think this COVID thing and the losses everyone is sustaining from this, from their investments and so forth, just causing insurance companies in general a lot of problems. So I don't want the board to feel like EMC was singling us out, because they were not. In our losses, we've had some loss issue problems that I know that Mitch and Brad have been working together to try and overcome some of the issues that we've had, and I think we're on the right path here. So why don't we go through the SFM quote here quickly in your packet. The SFM, we have all the state codes. The state code is for the state of Iowa. Where, as you can see, it should say work comp. And I wrote SMF, and I got that. And of all the things I tried to fix on this, it's supposed to be SFM, State Fund of Minnesota Mutual Insurance Company. They're an A-rated company. We have the state of Iowa covered under this. The limits I show here are the employer liability limits, Part B. We have to have 500,000 to match up with our umbrella. The payroll exposures we used were the same as last year for the employee payroll. I'm not sure everybody understands work comp or spends much time at it, but our experience mod has changed from a 0.93 to a 101, which is independent of all the other ones. It's only for our school. And it's likely to be changing higher because of our claims experience that we've had. And I think we've just, Brad and Mitch have got some plans together to try and get this thing changed around so we can get back in a kind of a winning column on this thing. We just had a lot of claims on little issues, and the company, they couldn't get by all these. So they have canceled us. And so SFM, you can see their quote was $175,061 right there. What SFM wants to do, and what Brad and Mitch and I have discussed, is changing the employment culture. That's what we have to do. And of course, we want to do this with the board's blessings and with the support of the board, because by changing the employment culture to a culture of safety and trying to take care of everybody's needs, and rather than turn everything into a claim, we want to turn it into a positive, have everybody trying to think about what they can do to become more safe. And it plays right into line with this COVID-19 issue. We're gonna be thinking about it with everything we do for safety. So one other thing that I really wanted to point out that one of you has probably run into somewhere. We are going to, since we have had all our teachers off from work and work from home, the ones that could, we're going to have a separate work comp rate for the last 3 or 4 months of this year till July 1. And then if we have to continue into the fall, we're going to charge everybody at a lower rate. So those rates haven't been established yet. We've been contacted, but it should make a significant difference in what we're going to pay for work comp. So that's going to affect the 19-20 year and the 20-21 year. So I've already been contacted on that, and you can see what the reasoning would be. If everyone's staying at home, they don't have the exposure that you'd have coming to work. Okay. If you'd like, why don't we review this quickly? I want to review the premiums, and then I want to review where we're going. Okay, we've got 2 different points here, but I'm going to review the premiums here. If you would go to the premium summary where it says EMC Insurance Company and SFM Mutual Insurance Company at the top under premium summary, you'll see I put last year's premiums versus the upcoming year's premiums. And one should say 142,397. The next one for the upcoming year is 163,297. That is a $20,900, believe it or not, it came out to an exact number, increase. What that increase was from was primarily property, and then a little bit through liability issues. Below that, I put down what our work comp premium for 2019-20 was, or is now. It's 112,603. and SFM's proposal is $175,062. So you can see the difference is 255,000 even to 338,000. So it's about $83,359 increase in premium, which when we first started this, Mitch and I were seeing numbers vastly different than that. We were thinking it was going to be about 125,000 more. So as we kind of finagled and worked on some of these companies, we got it down. So, and if you would jump over to the West Bend proposal, you can see what their work comp proposal was going to be. Theirs was going to be exactly, not exactly, but $18 off from 200,000. So they were going to be 200,000 and SFM is 175. So we're $25,000 difference. So both A-rated
Hans,
companies,
can I
both
ask on
have
the
safety programs.
Hans, can I ask on the
Go ahead.
EMC package? You mentioned that it was going up because of liability partially. Is that a general increase that's happening industry-wide, or is that something that is specific to us?
No, we're seeing general increases across the board. And not only the school program, in fact, I would suggest that the school program increases that I'm seeing are less than what I'm experiencing with just regular general liability, which is commercial general liability. So, you know, one of the things that's, it's hard for the purchasing public, if you don't buy commercial insurance, we've been in a real flat market for about 7 or 8 years where premiums have not changed much. And in many cases, they've gone down. And so at the same time, expenses have gone up, medical expenses have increased, car repairs, everything has increased in cost. And we've managed to keep things the same. And now everything is kind of catching up with us all at once. So I knew this year would come eventually, but I was hoping it wouldn't come in a year with the COVID deal, but that's kind of where we're at on that. So we have not, if you look back in the past year, we have not had much of an increase for quite some time. So, but you can see as you go down, like the linebacker, that went up $1,600. The umbrella, the commercial umbrella didn't go up a lot. That was $400. The group excess went up $200. The property, what we've been doing is we've been trying to stay up with inflation and adjust for different things. And a lot of things have just caught up with us finally with the new schools and so forth. So, okay, if you would take a look at the West Bend proposal and you see that that's 200,000, the package is exactly the same under both of them. The only difference is a $25,000 difference between Argent Work Comp, which is the pup company, to West Bend, and SFM. Okay, everybody see that? Okay. So that is a premium that we would be charged at $338. The one thing I will tell you is that once we get those work comp rates that should be less, we're going to have a credit. And not to muddy the waters here, but Mitch and I and Brad, we got a credit last year because we had a rate adjustment and we got a credit for like $3,700. So in our favor, we got a check back. So some of these things do work in our favor. So I'm suspecting that it's going to work that way on this with this COVID decrease in premium. Okay, the last thing I want to point out quickly is what the expectations are from SFM and what they expect you as the board. I put this information, as you can see, in the booklet behind the SFM final proposal. And one of the things they want us to do, which Brad and Mitch have already started, they've already started this process and they submitted it to me at least 2 months ago. We want to continue with the plan mitigation process. We want to initiate pre-employment physicals for new hires. Develop job descriptions online. Screen applicants to verify they can perform the position. Update reference check forms. Follow through with past employers to check work performance. Continue processing background checks on potential employees. Support staff hours of assignment form to update physical responsibilities. Create safety manuals based on job descriptions. I think that's very important. Get language from the carriers SFM, which we will help to incorporate into new employee handbooks. So in addition to that, what we want to do to help loss prevention, we want to organize a safety committee of employees along with the management. We want to assign a contact person for safety efforts. We want to draft our return to work policy. We want to increase safety awareness in all school departments by administrating a supervisor initiated training program. We want to identify slip, trip, and fall hazards and work to control them. That would be probably Mark would work toward that. And then provide SFM loss prevention with a contact person in special education. So they've got a good plan to try and reduce our claims and losses. As our claims go down, our premiums will go down. So our whole deal here is to keep employees safe, get them back to work as soon as they can if they are injured, and create a really good, safe environment for all our employees. So that's what we're going to try and do. And I think SFM is going to help us. And I think I know Sean, I've worked with him before. He's a good guy. I've had him for like 6 years now and worked with him, and they're really active in the school business. So I think that completes my report unless someone else has any questions.
Thank you, Hans, for that report. Anyone have any questions for Hans? I will say that because of my other hat as a physician, I do a fair amount of work comp, so I have been a little bit more involved, and I've been reviewing some of this. I think the three guys involved did a great job in trying to get our insurance down. I had a heart attack when they told me it was going to be a $120,000 increase. The increase of 80,000 is, well, it's tough. It's much more digestible than what we had. I think we're working on some good things to get this down in the future. The school insurance, when I was first on the board, first couple of years, I think they tried to bid out to other companies as well. And BAM Insurance was the only one to bid on it. Hans, actually, as I recall, doesn't BAM Insurance go through a subsidiary for EMC?
Well,
Out of Des Moines.
Jester Insurance, that's a good question, Brad. Jester Insurance developed the safety group, and we work closely with Jester Insurance on all sorts of different issues. And actually, EMC is the underwriting company that provides the reinsurance and the standard insurance. So they're the ones that have all the surplus, and they've got $1.5 billion in surplus. They're the local company that we all want to deal with, and we get things done. And we've written for them for 75 years. My grandpa wrote for them. So
yeah,
they're really a sound company.
So, okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to accept this insurance package with the SFM work comp component.
I move to accept the insurance package for work comp with FSM Insurance.
It's been
No,
moved by Mrs. Nystrom. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Mr. Pritchard to move forward with the insurance renewal with EMC with a carve out for work comp to SFM. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Bain, for all your hard work. We appreciate what you've done for the school district.
Thank you, Hans.
Hans, you're muted right now, but have a good evening. Next, the student catastrophic insurance renewal. I believe that also. Mitch, Dr. Menard.
Yep, so last year, Dr. Menard, correct me if I'm wrong, prior years, we used to get this coverage through the athletic associations. Last year, they dropped it, so we had to go find it ourselves. Last year, we got it through Gerber, and this year is just a renewal of that insurance, and it's 0% increase, $0 increase.
Okay. Any questions from the board members? Hearing none, I'll entertain motions.
Ryan,
Yes, Pam?
a catastrophic policy, what does that actually cover for students? A really bad
Okay.
accident here.
So that would be, let's say we had a football accident, a student got hit and it, he broke his, his spine broke in half, something like that. Or if we, a student was playing basketball and he lost his hearing, or something catastrophic more than just normal health insurance would cover, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, is there a motion on the floor?
This is Pat. I'll move to accept the bid or accept the renewal
Okay, is
of
there a second?
Second.
Okay. Been moved by Mrs. Stevens, seconded by Mr. Weber to approve the catastrophic accident medical insurance coverage as presented to the board. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next, DEA guidelines and Boone Community School District facilities and educational use. Dr. Menard, I think Mr. Collins is on board here. You want to enlighten us, please, as far as our latest interpretation of our governor?
Yeah, we thought schools were kind of opening, and as the details came out, what we've learned is that through the end of June, basically the only thing that is being allowed to open for is baseball and softball practice. Everything else is still pretty limited as far as having access to the buildings. And so I put together these guidelines based on the input from the DE, the information there, as well as looking at our programs. I sent you the 3D documents that guided this, and then this kind of put it together for us. And I went through this with those employees that were most impacted by this, and then the leadership team went through it this morning. And really included in it is also the next agenda item, Beeben Kids Club opening that on June, opening those two programs on June 8th. And so what we're really looking for here is approval from the board to implement this through the month of June. I suspect things will change July 1st, but we haven't gotten that information right now. And so this just gives us guidance for operation through the month of June.
Okay. Mr. Collins, any comments about getting the softball and baseball seasons up going? What you're seeing so far, there seems to be a moving target.
Yeah,
I'm trying to be
Yeah.
kind.
it really has been. Practice is scheduled to start on June 1st, which is next Monday. Competitions being June 15th. We received a few more frequently asked questions answered by the association today. A lot of it has referral back to the Department of Ed and their guidance. There's a few things that really cause a great impact that we're waiting to hear on, one of them being transportation and what limitations that creates for us, especially for sub-varsity games. Looking at what we need to do as far as sterilization of equipment, social distancing at the venues, and kind of the operation of that, which is, as you said, a moving target. And, you know, it's a work in progress at this point.
Okay.
That is why in the document I stated, not specifics, but that we would follow the guidance of both the Boys and the Girls Associations, because things are still coming, the DE as well. We were on a DE webinar the end of last week, and they said they're working on transportation, and we should get that information within the next 2 weeks. So, you know, that starts pushing it pretty tight to when we start competitions in baseball and softball, but they know that's an issue and a challenge. And, you know, you can't be too critical when they're trying to work through all the details themselves and get things put together in a situation that they've never dealt with. And they have done a lot of work over the last couple of months to pull everything together. And a lot of times our situation is we're waiting for their guidance. And then once we get it, we can put things together. So as far as baseball and softball, yeah, we're starting practice June 1. We're starting competition on June 15th, but we're still waiting for some details from the different organizations to give us guidance on what exactly the limitations and requirements are there.
And another thing that's on Dr. Menard's document that he shared is throughout June, restrictions for all of our out of season activities. So camps, clinics, open gyms, weight room, that's still suspended. Those are still suspended through until at least the 1st of July. So really the focus is on trying to get baseball and softball up and running with everything else being done virtually.
One of the challenges we had initially or thought about was that the weight room can't be open yet. Part of the practices that our baseball and softball players use in their practice efforts is some weightlifting. And we clarified through the DE that no, they cannot use the weight room. So that part of their practice still is not available.
Hey, Brett, this is Jeremy. I got two questions for you. Have you been in
Yeah.
contact with about this, and how are the coaches feeling? Have they given you any feedback or any ideas? How are they feeling about doing this safely?
Yeah, we've talked about every day, to be honest with you, since the governor made her announcement. I know on the baseball side of things, as far as the planning and talking with Coach Eastland, this is, you know, it's a lot more responsibilities on our coaches rather than just coaching the game of baseball or coaching the game of softball. And so that's something that we have to be aware of. I will tell you that we've had several parents reach out and say, hey, whatever it is that you guys need from us, you know, whether it's sterilizing bleachers or dugouts or whatever they're willing to do. It's just a lot. It's a lot to take in with a short amount of time to wrap our minds around it. And so we're coming to terms with what it's going to look like, but also being mindful of what we have to prepare for, you know, because there's so much that goes into putting on a game logistics wise, and that's not even considering the spectators and people outside of the game. And so I think there's some apprehension there, but it's not anything we can't work through. I think we're all willing to do that for our kids. It's just coming to terms with the additional things that we have to be aware of. we're going to be meeting with families, and a big point that we're going to need to make is assuming that responsibility that when you come to practice or when you come to games, we need you to be honest about your health. We need you to be mindful of and cognizant of taking your temperature and doing that, because we can't do that for you in a in a regulatory manner. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. But again, we're working through it.
Hey, Brett, a follow-up question, something that you mentioned that I was thinking about. We're asking them to do more than just coach a sport. Are we opening them up to any liability that we need to add any protection for? Or is there a waiver that people should be signing, play at your own risk? I mean, I want our coaches to be there for our kids, but I don't want to worry about liability issues as well as their.
Right. I know that's been probably more of a concern of mine for them than what we've discussed. One of the guidelines from the Department of Ed is to make sure that we have a sign posted, and we have a checklist to kind of go through too that's been provided. But we've discussed having a waiver needing to be signed, not only for playing at your own risk, but understanding that we're doing the best we can, but we can't cover everything. And so I don't think that's a bad idea, at least to safeguard us a little bit. And that's a really good question, because I don't know what type of ownership the association and the union are going to take with that.
I can say a little bit there in that, of course, throw on another one of my hats. I'm also jurisdictional commander for the Emergency Management Crisis Team for Boone County. And we're going to be bantering this tomorrow at our meeting. Because the question on all of this is, as far as a liability standpoint and an enforcement standpoint, we're going to have signs up plastered all over that says, please practice good social distancing, enter at your own risk, but practice good social distancing. Is that going to be enough from a liability standpoint that the Boone Schools does not get in trouble? Or is the expectation going to be not only that, but we have to have, I call him an administrative thug, or our school resource officer at the game, walking around, and if someone is not practicing good social distancing, walking up to them and saying, hey guys, give me that close, put the mask on or whatever, and that could be considered enough, or they could be asked to leave the premises, that type of thing. I think it has to be uniform with all conference schools in the conference. And I'm not sure, we're kind of looking at that from some other enforcement issue problems that we're having on the public health standpoint. And my big concern is the liability standpoint, because if we have a sign and then we don't enforce it, and then some lawyer, we get 10 people come down with coronavirus had been at one of our baseball games, is there an issue or not there? So this is uncharted territory. Right now, I'm not sure the answer. We'll be working on that tomorrow afternoon, some discussions and trying to figure out where we go. I'm hoping that Department of Education and the Girls and Boys Athletic Associations can also provide us an answer. So this is that's something we don't have, and I'd be wrong if I did not mention the fact that not all schools are going back. The Belmont-Clemmy School District has already met. Their Board of Education voted not to resume their softball or baseball seasons because of the concern for their students' health and safety. I'm not saying that we have to do that, but I think it needs to be noted that that is happening. And I have not heard about uniform 100% every school board approving these return to work things. So, I mean, return to play. So I haven't heard anyone ask us not to return our kids, but it's out there.
You know, they also did say in their guidance that came from the unions was, you know, as we were talking about the coaches being liable, they did say the expectation was not to have those management expectations fall upon the coaches to be managing that stuff, that they were to be there with their teams. And so that then comes back to us as a district to figure out what type of staff it's going to take to manage our facilities. And like you said, is it one person? Do we need 3 people there? Some of those things that they're going to say, limit the use of bleachers. Like they said, does limit the use mean you close your bleachers off and everybody's standing or sitting? Do you tape off sections in the bleachers so people can only sit 3 rows away from each other? But I think as a district, we'll have to come up with a plan for who can be there and who can help out at our home games and stuff to manage that so it doesn't fall on the coaches.
I don't think, and Brad's gonna need some help too. Mr. Collins is gonna need help with that. He can't do it all either. So right now, I think when we approve this, we have to approve this with the caveat that it's subject to change by Mr. Collins and the rest of the administration as they deem warranted by
I think
changes
it might
made
be.
by the others.
Is
I
there,
think we
is
should-
there?
And all-
And all we can really
That the
do is our,
Okay, I'm gonna raise my hand. Is
Okay,
there a
Brett first.
thing for the students to?
Okay.
Okay, Brett first.
oh, I was just gonna say that
Brett, were you gonna
all we
say
can do is our due diligence and try to put those things in place and advertise that this is what we're doing, and hopefully have some consistency within our conference too, which will be really hard. I mean, it's difficult to walk up to somebody and tell them to stop doing something, especially in that setting. We can at least post it and say that we're attempting to do it, which I think takes some liability away, but it's never going to be perfect.
Pat, you're next.
Is there a release statement or something that the students can say, can sign? I'm playing at my own risk, so that it's not going to come back and bite us if somebody does get COVID-19. I would think that would be the minimum that we could do is sign a release form.
And we
Yeah.
can check with our attorneys on that. I'm guessing that they've gotten that question already and maybe have a sample form that we could look at.
I would think the athletic association or one of the athletic associations can have something like that printed for us. Mr. Pritchard, I saw you had a comment too.
The other concern that I have is some of these sports are pretty physical, require a lot of conditioning, strength, and otherwise, and very limited prep time. And depending on how this plays out into the summer with football and other athletics, even basketball in the winter. Brett, are you worried about injuries or kids being in proper condition to play these competitive sports?
I can't say that I'm not concerned about it. And I think it really falls on, we need to be able to get into the weight room starting that July 1st and at least have some camps, clinics, open gyms going on for our kids to be stretched out and ready to go for the start of practice. That is a concern and something that we've discussed because we're not given a whole lot of lead time to guard against injuries, especially when you talk about baseball and softball with arms stretching out and pitchers and catchers and stuff. So that's going to be a difficult thing to manage.
I'm going to be curious to see if the high school boys union puts some different limits on the pitch counts for the high school, for the varsity teams this year compared to previous years, because the players really have had limited time to get their arms strong. And pitch count seems to be the way they have tried to limit that in the future. Mrs. Stephen, I think I saw you had one more comment.
Well, I was saying also the release form should also apply to the families. If the families are coming to watch, it should apply not just to the players, but also to the families.
Okay.
Mr.
Weber?
Two things.
Mr. Weber?
Yep. Going back to the transportation aspect, I know we just kind of went past that a little bit. Maybe, I think we just need to approve, like you said, Brian, to be able to be changed as needed by administrators and coaches and whatnot. But I think we need to prep to have those 2 buses going if that's the case, because I mean, the opposite, I saw in one of the reports that we were reading today that was sent, the idea of parents potentially driving, and that's possible, but there's always gonna be a situation where a parent can't get there, and the idea of students driving themselves to Winterset or ADM, I just don't think that's a good option. So we've got the money from the CARES fund, and I know it costs more money to take 2 buses to these places, but that's what this money was supposed to be for, I believe, if I understand it correctly. So I think that's necessary. And then I know a lot of these baseball and softball parents. And so, yeah, it's one question of, well, do we have to have more people working at the games to do the different stuff? I know a lot of these parents are going to be willing to volunteer to help out as needed. And so it's probably just proper training them of what they need to do. But I know a lot of them want this to happen. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Okay.
Yes,
Dr. Nystrom, I saw you had a comment next. Dr. Nystrom,
I have a question, Brett, about just the physical presence at the ballpark where people can go and sit around outside of the stadium areas and watch. If we could encourage that, that will promote social distancing quite nice, and not put up the visual barriers. And, go back to the old days at Little League and pass the hat if you need to. I think people would be generous and understand that it's maybe not to go into the ballpark.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone talked about it. I just, live up here and watch it. And so.
Yeah, that's kind of been the talk as far as not putting up those wood screens, at least not the full thing around the whole outfield. And I think that's kind of been the encouragement for, staying away from bleachers as much as possible and encouraging people to bring their own lawn chairs to be able to sit around. To create that social distancing is probably a better option.
I just think it would help. Yeah.
Okay. The other thing I will say before I'll entertain a motion to approve this is that I believe a couple months ago we passed the emergency COVID board policy. So technically, if we approve this, then if the administrators have any question, it would just be Mrs. Teben and I, as the president and vice president, would have to make any if there's any minute things they need to change, it could go through the 2 of us, so we don't have to have a full board meeting until June 8th. So I think we can get by under that premise. If there's anything significant, Dr. Bernard, Mr. Collins, you can just shoot the 2 of us an email.
We'll do.
And we can do it that way. So that being said, I'll entertain a motion first for the approval of the DEA guidelines and summer plans as presented on section 2.03 of our board agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the guidelines for summer facility and educational use as discussed in 2.03.
Okay, it's been moved by Dr. Nystrom. Is there a second?
Second.
The new Dr. Nystrom, seconded by Mr. Pritchard, to approve the DE guidelines and Boone Community School District summer plan summer 2020 as presented on 2.03 on the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Nay. Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Next, Dr. Menard, the BEEP and Kids Club opening. Dr. Menard, you're muted.
Yep,
Okay.
that was actually part of the facility and educational use. So by approving that, we've already approved the BEEP and Kids Club opening for June 8th.
That's fine with me. Then we'll move on to, unless is there a discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll move on.
I have a question.
Dr. Nystrom?
Where will Kids Club be held this year then?
At Page. So they'll both be at Page. That way we're able just to keep them in one facility. It also allows them to walk to more local parks, to the library, which probably won't be open, but that's where they're set up. They use some classrooms there. They're going down to just essentials, so they should only have about 15 kids where they normally have 40. So that will be the plan. And then the nice thing too is as we work with the custodial staff, it'll be at one location. So because we'll have to clean between playground uses, bathrooms will need to be cleaned midday too. So that way it's one stop too.
Thanks,
Okay.
Tom. That's kind of what I thought, that I wasn't sure. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Steben, I think I saw your hand up.
Yeah, before we go on, I just want to verify that they will check with the lawyers and or the athletic association about that waiver form. Even though we voted to approve everything, I do want to make sure that that is really looked into and reported back to the board.
Yeah, I've got that down to call in tomorrow and take care of that.
Thank you, Brett.
And I'll check with the association as well.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Next is the city council and the new school site, functional design with the city. Since Jeremy and I were there on Monday night, week ago Monday night, we presented our proposal. Actually, Eric did, and I think most of you were on the Zoom meeting for it, and several questions afterwards. City council had some concerns as far as site 2 versus site 1, as far as what was going to be given most residential development. And the city council really doesn't have anyone certified in city planning on their staff. And so what the city council has asked for, they've been in contact with a company called MSA, and they have professional city planners on site or with their company that will come in and give us an overview as far as where they think the road should be for the best for city planning purposes as far as new residential home construction and or industry. And the city council at their meeting last Monday night, they did go ahead and approve hiring this company if the board tonight would split the pot 50-50, and it's $21,500 total. So we'd be responsible for $10,750 of this in order to decide where the road would be best served, either option 1 or option 2. And so we have that on our agenda right now to approve this. Questions from board members?
Well, do we have the money available? I mean, where are we going to come up with that money?
Mitch?
We would probably use save funds for that. That would be coming out of our pot that we would buy the land in our summer projects in.
Okay, thank you.
Unfortunately, it's seems like a lot, but in the big picture, when we're talking about a $19 or $17 million project, it's probably not a huge amount. We want to get it right. And the feeling I got was there's some debate. Our board is kind of leaning towards option 1. The city council is leaning toward option 2. And this might be the way to go to get an independent third party to tell us which one is the better option. So, Jeremy?
It's fine. I think it's a good idea. I just was wanting to make sure we had the money taken care of.
Yep. Jeremy?
The other thing to note is that the city is mostly interested in this for economic development, but part of the study would be traffic flow, which would benefit us, also watershed, culverts, that sort of thing. 2 things that would be beneficial to us. So that'd be included in there. And Bill Scare also indicated that this company, this MSA group, are pretty slow with the COVID situation, so that this work could be completed pretty quickly in a matter of a couple weeks to a month, which is another nice thing to keep things moving.
And the city council members, there were three of them that all said that they did not want to see the school waiting any longer. They wanted to push this forward, which was, to me, I thought it was very encouraging, just reading between the lines. So any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve this expenditure.
Maybe I'm the only one that has heard this. I thought maybe others would have heard by now. Maybe Brad, maybe you've actually heard it. I thought I recently heard, even since the week, that because they talked about during a city council meeting about reaching out to the landowners on both sides to see if development was even an option. And what I've heard is that development is not an option. The Geppingers are unwilling.
Mr. Weber, that'll be an executive content later tonight.
Okay, so why are we paying for something that potentially can't even happen is my question.
Because we're not sure, that's why we need to find out.
Okay.
We're just approving that we could spend this money if it was necessary to do so.
Okay, makes sense.
Okay. Any questions? Is there a motion to approve this expenditure?
I'll move to approve the new elementary site functional design with the city of Boone.
Is there a second?
Pat, second.
Okay, Mr. Pritchard has moved and Ms. Stephen has seconded a motion to approve the contract with MSA for the functional design with the city of Boone for a total of $21,500, with Boone Community School District being responsible for $10,750. Any further discussion?
I just kind of have a question, Jeremy and Brad. In their plan here, they talk about 4 tasks, but there are really 7. I mean, is that just oversight? Have they grouped stuff together? When you look at some of the things that they don't want to, include in their services, like meetings or additional cost estimates. Did you get a good feeling about this company just in general? I mean, they're out of Ankeny. Had you heard of them, Jeremy, in your business?
This is the same company Brad might remember that the Chamber of Commerce was going to hire when we were looking at potential sites, and they were going to do their analysis of the sites. They've been around. They've done a lot of work like this in Iowa. So I met with 2 of their representatives through that process, and I felt good about them then.
Yeah, I've met with them as well, and I think they'll do a good job for us.
Okay. Any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, the motion passed unanimously to contract with MSA in the city of Boone. Next is the UE negotiations, Dr. Menard.
We've worked with the UE, the Sports Staff Union, on a negotiation proposal, and they've come to an agreement of a 2.38, is it, or is it 3.6?
2.36.
2.36 agreement, which is the same as the teachers, which would be a 15% increase on the base, $150 on the driver's base, and 15 cents on activity routes for drivers. So I would recommend we approve that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please. Or first, I need a motion to approve contract.
I move to approve the contract for the United Electrical Radio and Machine Workers of America Union for the Boone certified staff.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? I think Joey, did I see you seconding it?
Second.
Okay, the move by Dr. Nystrom, seconded by Mr. Weber to approve the UE negotiated agreement as presented on the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Next on is the fiscal year 21 administrative managers salaries. Dr. Menard, any comments? It's been presented, it's on the agenda.
Yeah, you know, we reviewed these and the administrators generally have a 2.3% increase along with a couple of adjustments for comparability. And the central office has a similar increase in hourly. So I would recommend that we approve these.
Okay. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve both of these in one motion. Is there a motion? Dr. Nystrom, I think, wants to make a motion.
I'm lost.
We're on the motion for the administrators in central office salary increases.
I move to approve
Okay,
the salary schedules for salary increases.
This is Pat, I second.
okay. The move by Dr. Nystrom, second by Mrs. Stephen to approve both the administrators fiscal year 21 salary scale along with the central office salary scale. Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next, we have a couple of quick closed sessions. So I'd like to thank, first I'd like to thank everyone that signed on tonight. I know Mr. Kelly, Mr. Collins, Mr. Sellers. I saw several others on here earlier. Ms. Jewell, Bob, thank you. Mr. Byam. I think I saw Mr. Winters along here, Ms. James. Is there any comments, Bog or Joey, have you guys seen on the internet? Any questions or anything?
I haven't seen anything.
Mitch? Okay.
No questions.
Okay. Drake, I see you there too. So thanks, everyone. You guys have a safe night. And
Brian,
that should be, yes.
some of the administrators will be staying on as part of that closed session